Today's class is continuation of Acinetobacter. Here this Acinetobacter causes mostly in hospital healthcare associated infection. They may be classified based on DNA hybridization. DNA hybridization. These are gram-negative cocobacillary rods, and these are strict aerobic. The strain that is isolated from clinical samples that are designated as Acinetobacter chalcoaceticus baumannii complex. This strain has been classified into so many strains basing on DNA hybridization. There are two important species. There are Acinetobacter, three important species, that is Acinetobacter baumannii, Acinetobacter lofi, and Acinetobacter hemolyticus. That is not written. Another strain is also there. Here in this case, this Acinetobacter forms pink colored colonies on Meconchiaga. Another important characteristic feature of this baumannii is it grows at 10% lactose, 10% lactose, presence of 10% lactose instead of 1% lactose. This Acinetobacter biochemically important features are these are glucose. This ferments the glucose, but non-hemolytic. And whereas this Acinetobacter lofi, it is a glucose non-fermentative and non-hemolytic on blood agar. Another species, that is Acinetobacter hemolyticus, that produces hemolytic colonies. Here, these Acinetobacter mainly causes the usually seen in hospital infections. This is about the Acinetobacter. And next one is most important one, that is Helicobacter. Here, these Helicobacter are spiral organisms. Previously, it is considered as Campylobacter pylori. Because of some differences, they are again redesignated as Helicobacter pylori. The most common site for this Helicobacter is gastric antrum. Even though it is present in other areas of the stomach, the most common site is gastric stomach antrum. Here, this Helicobacter is first identified by Helicobacter pylori was first identified by Warren Marshall. Warren Marshall, the person who are suffering with gastritis, superficial gastritis. This Helicobacter pylori is known since ancient times. They have been detected in mummies, pre-Columbian mummies. Nowadays, it became a common infection in half of the population of the world. It's first observed during the period in 1983. Nomenclature is given in 1989. Again, these most important, medically important human pathogens are Helicobacter pylori, Helicobacter simneri, and finelli. This most important pathogen for humans is Helicobacter pylori. Sometimes finelli causes human infection. Usually, it causes infections in the animals. This Simneri and finelli species are usually seen in immunocompromised patients, not only in immunocompromised patients but also in homosexuals. This is about the Helicobacter, Simneri and finelli. These two are usually seen in immunocompromised conditions. And if you see the morphology of this Helicobacter, these are gram-negative helical structure. Helical structure measures about 0.5 to 1 into 2.5 to 5 micrometers in size. Another important feature is most important characteristic feature of this Helicobacter pylori is the production of the urease. Because of this only, it can be sometimes, most of the times it can be diagnosed. It contains morphology. It contains Lophotrichus, a tuft of Lophotrichus placella, that is 4 to 6 sheathed, attached at one pole only. These are not motile organisms. Okay, and single polar placellum is seen in Pinelli and Cygnidae. Next, this another important feature is these are oxidase catalase. These are oxidase catalase positive, and it also produces the phosphatase and hysterase along with the production of the urease. These are another important feature is it does not metabolize the sugars. It does not metabolize the sugars, and these are does not reduce the nitrates also. Here, I already told, usually the most common site for this Helicobacter pylori is the gastric antrum, and produces the superficial, produces the chronic superficial gastritis. Okay. This Cygnidae and Pinelli colonize the human intestinal tract in immunocompromised patient, not only immunocompromised but also homosexuals, and produces and presented with the clinical manifestations like proctitis, proctocolitis, enteritis, and bacteremia, and usually transmitted by the sexual fruit. If you see the pathogenesis, pathogenesis of this Helicobacter is not clearly understood, but some theories had given after entry of this Helicobacter into the host. First it colonizes on the colonizes the gastric mucosa, but does not invade the gastric gastric mucosa. Because of this habit only, it resists the acidic pH, like 6 to 7 or 5, like that. It resists because of this habitation only. It adapted to this habitation and resists the acid pH in the stomach. Usually it adheres to the surface epithelium or pits of the epithelial cells within the mucosal crypts. And also it protected from the digestive enzymes and hydrochloric acid. Another important feature of this is usually it presents with mild active gastritis. Mild active gastritis. It may last for some weeks only. In some cases, infection may be transient. In some cases, it may last for years or decades. It may last for years or decades. There it can be presented as chronic superficial gastritis. Gastritis. These patients may be asymptomatic, even though that, but it can be diagnosed facing the histopathological biopsy sections. And another important feature of this is not only it colonizes on the gastric mucosa. Sometimes it may also colonizes in the gastric metaplasia heterotropia of the duodenum. Here, this Helicobacter pylori is associated with is associated. Sometimes it may be one of the risk factors for the malignancies like adenocarcinoma. Adenocarcinoma and also MALT. That is, MALT means mucosa associated lymphatic tissue lymphomas. In MALT lymphomas, these lymphomas can be regressed whenever the patient underwent whenever the patient is treated with this Helicobacter treatment, you can see there is regression of this lymphomas. So indicating the risk factor of this Helicobacter pylori in case of mucosa-associated mucosa-associated lymphatic tissues lymphoma. And pathogenesis is not clearly understood. It sometimes it may be it is known it may be due to poor poverty, it may be due to overcrowding, and maybe due to unhygienic conditions. It may it may be seen in those persons. In developing countries, almost 20 to 60% population is infected with this Helicobacter pylori in developing countries, whereas in changing in lifestyles of the children in developed countries, this prevalence has been reduced nowadays. Okay, this is about the pathogenesis of this Helicobacter infection. Here, these are already told. These are all catalase. These are catalase oxidase positive produces the phosphatase and also H2S, along with the production of the important enzyme, that is urease. What are the factors that are associated with Helicobacter infection? These are some of the virulence factors that are associated. First and most important one is urease. Here, this urease utilizes the gastric acids and also stimulates the production of the monocytes and neutrophils, and also stimulates the production of the inflammatory cytokines. Heat shock proteins enhances the expression of urease. Whenever there is an increased production of the urease, thereby it neutralizes the gastric acid. And another important factor is acetic acid inhibitory protein. It induces the hypochlorhydria, which is in a good environment for the growth of the Helicobacter pylori. Flagella is useful for the sometimes it may penetrate. I told that I already told. Usually it colonizes on the gastric mucosa. Sometimes, I mean very rarely, because of this flagella, it may penetrate into the gastric mucosa, and sometimes you may see in other areas. And adhesives also plays an important role, which mediates to the adhere to the host cells like gastric epithelial cells. Enzymes like mucinase, phospholipase, which disrupts the gastric mucus layer. Superoxide dismutase and catalase prevents the phagocytic killing. That means it promotes the, prevents the phagocytic killing. It promotes the, regulates the phagocytosis, and dissemination, sometimes dissemination can be seen. Sometimes, very rarely, dissemination can be seen. This Helicobacter pylori also shows genetic diversity. Some allele genes may involve, like CAG gene and CAG gene, like cytotoxic associated gene, and other one is vacuolating cytotoxin gene. These are also responsible for the pathogenesis. So the pathogenesis of the Helicobacter pylori. So these are also one of the important virulent factor genes, CAG gene and virulent vacuolating cytotoxin expression gene. Other defined factors like interleukins. I mean, these are also involved. Interleukins, platelet aggregating factor, stimulates the poorly defined factors like production of the interleukin, and there is the production of platelet aggregating factor. These are all involved in the pathogenesis infection of the Helicobacter pylori. In later cases, we can see chronic atrophic gastritis. Okay, chronic atrophic gastritis. That means in those the persons who are suffering with this Helicobacter pylori in later stages, the persons may have echlorhydric condition. So they may be prone to so many secondary infections also. So we already told. And if you see the laboratory, diagnosis, uh, here the most important samples that we can collect are gastric biopsy sample. Gastric biopsy sample. So these gastric biopsy sample can be transported in the transport media. These are cultured on chocolate agar or on Campylobacter media containing whole or lysed bladder. These are microaerophilic. That means it grows only in reduced oxygen, only in reduced oxygen tension, and also in the presence of environment like 5 to 10% carbon dioxide, and grows at a temperature of 37 degrees centigrade. 37 degrees centigrade. Sometimes at 44 degrees, 37 degrees centigrade, colonies can be seen after 24 to 48 hours. Okay. This is about the laboratory diagnosis based on culture. And if you see the invasive tests and diagnosis tests involves invasive tests and non-invasive tests. In invasive tests involves after taking the biopsy sample, it is this material and this biopsy material is put in the urease indicator in the endoscopic room itself. If there is any presence of the urease, it can be detected. In the endoscopic room itself. Other tests that other tests that are available are culture. Okay, culture. Non-invasive test involves the ELISA test, and these Helicobacter antigens or antibodies can be detected by using the fluorescent antibody test or ELISA. These tests are available for detection of this Helicobacter pylori. And other test is urease breath test. Here in this case, the patient is allowed to take carbon labeled isotope. His breath releases the urease, so it can be detected by breath test. This is known as urease breath test. Carbon labeled isotope is carbon labeled solution is taken by the patient, and his breath releases the urease. It can be detected, but it requires the isotope assay facilities. So a little bit in economic, only in the research laboratories, this urease breath test can be available. Next, if you see the treatment and prevention part, here we have triple chemotherapy. This can be you can be learned in the medicine. You are in your medicine. Here it contains proton pump inhibitor and one or more antibiotics like clarithromycin, amoxicillin, and metronidazole. Sometimes bismuth compound is also used. Inadequate treatment. So it has some therapy protocol. If there is any inadequate treatment, it results in the recurrence of the symptoms. So the person should take complete treatment. Next one is Legionella pneumophila. This Legionella pneumophila is a gram-negative rot. Coccobacillary exists as Coccobacillary forms. It requires iron and cystic for growth, particularly like buffered charcoal, yeast extract, and it also grows in chocolate agar also. The optimum growth temperature is 35 to 36 degrees centigrade. In the presence of carbon dioxide environment, that is 2.2 to 5% carbon dioxide. So many species there. There are about 40 species. In that, Legionella pneumophila species is medically important pathogen to the humans. Here that is not pneumonia. It exists in two forms. That is Legionnaires' disease, and another one is Pontine fever. That is not pneumonia. That is Legionnaires' disease. Here in this case, Legionnaires' disease, the person acquires the infection by inhalation of the aerosols that is produced by cooling towers, like cooling towers, air conditions, they cooling ఏసీలో ఉన్నా కానీ అలా aerosols ఏవైతే ప్రొడ్యూస్ అవుతాయి, you can see there sometimes these Legionella may inhabit in the cooling towers. If the person inhales these aerosols, he may get the infection after an incubation period of 2 to 10 days. The patient may present clinically presented as fever, cough, dry cough, chest pain. Sometimes it may progress to pneumonia. Okay, mortality rate is very high. That is almost 10 to 20% in this Legionnaires' disease. Why it is called Legionnaires' disease? Because in the previous days, an outbreak had occurred in Legionella, that is present legion that is present in America. The person who had attended convocation in the convocation Philadelphia, because this outbreak had occurred in the American Legion. That's why it is also called Legionnaires' disease. I already told it exists in two forms. That is Legionnaires' disease. Another one is Pontine fever. This Pontine fever is a little bit mild when compared to the Legionnaires' disease. Here the mortality rate is low. It may present as it may typically presented as influenza-like illness. But here in this case, recurrence rate is high, mortality rate is low. Source of infection is unknown. Again, this pneumophilia, this Legionella pneumophila, which is medically important human pathogen, divided into 3 subspecies. They are Legionella pneumophila subspecies Pneumophila, another species that is Legionella pneumophila subspecies Prasseri, Legionella pneumophila subspecies Phasphili. Serologically they are divided into more than 14 serogroups. In that, again, Legionella pneumophila serogroup 1 is the most important pathogenic subspecies. Serogroup. This is the picture showing the Coccobacilli gram-negative bacilli along with the pus cells. If you see the laboratory diagnosis, the specimens that we can collect for the diagnosis for detection of this Legionella pneumophila are sputum, bronchial wash, bronchial aspirate, or sometimes pleural fluid, lung biopsy. These are the most important specimens. Sometimes in septicemia, blood is also used. Okay. These are Legionella pneumophila or intracellular pathogens, usually grown in monocytes and macrophages. Dissemination occurs through blood, causing the septicemia. This clinical material is cultured on BCYE media, that is buffered charcoal yeast extract agar, which contain the lysine and some antibiotics also. This media is incubated for 48 hours at 36 degrees centigrade aerobically. with the environment of containing 2.5% carbon dioxide. Colonies are glossy in appearance, and negative report should be released only after 10 to 14 days. Before that, we should not give the report. Okay, and this Legionella can be identified by using the fluorescent antibody tests. Direct and indirect fluorescent antibody tests are also available. Specific here we have specific. Here we have there is an availability of specific antisera for Legionella pneumophila also. Legionella pneumophila. Antigen tests, antigens that can be detected, the specimen that we use for antigen detection are urine. By using the urine specimen, Legionella pneumophila can be identified by the latex agglutination test or by ELISA test for detecting the Legionella pneumophila SG serogroup 1. And other tests are also available in serology, but they are not reliable. They are usually used for community-based diagnosis. In serology, we have fluorescent immunofluorescent tests and also ELISA tests. They are available in serology of Legionella pneumophila. And if you see the treatment of this Legionella pneumophila, erythromycin can be used. Erythromycin or ciprofloxacin are the effective drugs for the treatment. Rifampicin is used mainly in severe cases. Severe cases like those who are presented with pneumonia or present with pneumonia or pleural effusion. This is the control of this Legionella pneumophila. Heat or disinfecting heating or disinfecting with the chlorine or biocides can be used for the control of this organism. And before using, drinking of this water, it should be boiled. Our water should be heated to above 60 degrees centigrade and cooled before distribution. This is about the controlling of the Legionella pneumophila. If you see the epidemiology of this Legionella pneumophila, there is no reservoir. There is no reservoir, no carrier state. There is no transmission from human to human. Humans are the only sources for this Legionella pneumophila infection. This is widely distributed in nature. Usually widely distributed in nature, usually seen in cooled temperature or mud or some cooled areas. This is about the this completes the Legionella pneumophila. And if you see the Gardnerella vaginalis, this Gardnerella vaginalis is a gram-negative, non-motile, pleomorphic rod with metachromatic granules. This virulence factors that are involved in Gardnerella vaginalis is pili. Okay, adherent. This pili is one of the structure for adherence, and other factors are hemolytic cytotoxin and phospholipase A2. These Gardnerella vaginalis are microaerophilic. Sometimes these are also, sometimes these are also associated with anaerobic bacteria like Mobilincus and and other some anaerobic bacteria causing the bacterial vaginosis. Okay, bacterial vaginosis. This bacterial vaginosis can be diagnosed by using the some microscopic criteria of gram stain. Microscopic criteria of gram stain of high vaginal swab using the Nugent score. So Nugent score is used for diagnosis of this bacterial vaginosis. This bacterial vaginosis also presents with some clinical features like pH of the vagina is more than 4. pH of the vagina is more than 4.5 min, more than 4.5. Usually it is an acidic condition. And also there is a foul smelling discharge from the vagina, and there is a presence of clue cells. These clue cells are nothing but the vaginal epithelial cells. Infected vaginal epithelial cells are studded with gram-negative bacilli. Okay, these are nothing but the clue cells. Whiff test is also used. Whiff test and Hippurate test positivity also helpful for the diagnosis of this bacterial vaginosis. Nugent score is used for the bacterial vaginosis. Already told, Nugent score is nothing but the is made by using the gram stain of the high vaginal swab. This is about the Gardnerella vaginalis. Next, other one is HASEC group. This is an acronym. HASEC is nothing but a acronym. Sometimes it may be given as a very short. What is HASEC? Define HASEC. So HASEC is nothing but Haemophilus species. H means Haemophilus species. It may be a parainfluenza, Aprophilus, para-Aprophilus. And A means Actinobacillus actino. Already told in that is not there. A means Actinobacillus actinomycomitans. C means Cardiobacterium pulmonis. E means Achinella corrodens. And K means Kingella kingae. This is an acronym of HASEC. Usually this HASEC group is present as a commensal in the mouth of the human. So sometimes it may cause infection. Sometimes it may cause a severe infection, particularly endocarditis. Okay, this can be grown in a blood agar, but it requires almost 5 to 30 days. 5 to 30 days of incubation. After that only we'll get the colonies of this HASEC group organisms. Here this completes the miscellaneous bacteria. Thank you.